What's happening, everybody? Oh my goodness. My speakers were so loud. All right, let's fix that real quick. Whoops-a-daisy. All right, there we go. Good golly. How's it going? I am Bird Dog John. Happy Thanksgiving. We got a little Thanksgiving sign up here for my fellow Americans. Wait a minute. Well, I mean, technically I am American because I'm from North America, but for my United States citizens, happy Thanksgiving. This is Thanksgiving week here in the U.S. Canada's was last month, which is one that I celebrate because I'm Canadian by birth. But the American Thanksgiving is this week, and that is this Thursday, which means that there's a programming change. We will not be meeting on Thursday here for our annual or our twice a week show. So just take a note on that we will not be together on Thursday morning at 11 Eastern time. It'll just be this show this week, and then we'll meet again this time next week when we get back together. So hope you're doing well. Thanks so much for joining us. There appears to be an issue with my Google device, but anyways, we'll just wait for her to stop talking. Thanks for hanging out. As you saw, our intro video for today, which I really think is cool. I want to start doing some more of that stuff to open the show. So if you missed the announcement late last week, there was a webinar on Friday that we all were watching. There was over 400 people registered, which was pretty awesome because that's pretty much the max limit for Zoom. So we're going to have to actually go to live streaming, doing some of those, not here, but on a Bird Dog platform somewhere to live stream it and allow more than 400 people to join, or 500. I think 500 is the limit, and we had like some ridiculous number of people registered. It was almost at the limit, I'll put it that way. So that's pretty fun. But yeah, we had a webinar on Friday, and that basically announced major firmware updates for all of our cameras, as well as a major update for cam control. And the primary update was coloration, being able to edit coloration, and basically enabling all features that are on the camera lens, the coloration features, enabling as many of those as humanly possible for our end users. So we don't believe in releasing a new camera with the color options where you need to buy a new camera to get those, Apple. But we do believe in enabling features that are already embedded in the lens. And so the big final update for most of our cameras was being able to dial into the color matrix that is on board the camera and the lens stuff that's being able, what the lens can actually see. So that was huge. And we ended up enabling that on all cameras. In most cases, you need to do the baseboard update and you need to do the firmware update. Many people are missing that. They download a big giant file and they only do the FW update. You need to do the baseboard update for the P200. You need to do a critical update for the P100, then a baseboard, then the firmware. The P200 needs a baseboard, then the firmware. P400, I believe, is just a firmware update, and the P4K is also just a firmware update. So the camera line, in terms of the major consumer cameras that people are using, the majority of them are those four cameras right now. There is also an A200 and an A300. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't looked at the firmware updates for those. It does not appear that there's an update for either of those. But in theory, those are the same lens as the P200, which means that there will probably be a baseboard update that needs to be done, which probably means we have to write a piece of software to enable that. So that's probably where we're at with those. But the other four cameras, the P100, P200, P4K, and P400, all got major updates in terms of coloration. And so if you have one of those, you need to head on over to our firmware update site and check that out, and we will be happy to help you walk through that update if you get stuck. But it's pretty much the same update. The P400, for example, has had a core update out there for quite a while, so most P100 users know how to do that one. But there is a video on the knowledge database if you are unfamiliar with how to do a core update over the USB cable. That one needs to be done first, then the baseboard, and then the firmware. Hey Sherman, how's it going? Welcome back. Turkey Day, yeah, coming up, right? Now, spoiler alert, I actually, my in-laws, who are American, and I married an American, they were in town a little while ago, and so we celebrated Thanksgiving prior to this week, and so this is just going to be a couple of days of actual rest. I will also note that part of Wednesday, Thursday, all of Thursday, and most of Friday, the help desk will be closed. So if you are submitting tickets, remember I'm the only support agent. So U.S. holidays, the help desk is closed during those holidays, and that is one of those. So about to run my A1 P200 updates. Oh, that's exciting. You should, if you have an A1, use the A2, A3 update. I have an A1 right there, and it is currently running the A2, A3, and that seems to be functioning well. I'm able to use cam control and all that, all the sort of fun coloration stuff that goes along with it. We can actually show you this. So here is the P100, which is actually being used inside OBS right now. This is the P100 with the update, but Knudsen Cam is my P200, which is over there. Obviously, it's had some alterations to the picture, and the exposure is quite low. It looks like the gain is pretty low. So let's do something about that. We'll open up the site and we'll go here. It's the P200. AV controls. Now I could be using this in cam control, by the way. Where's the exposure gain? Yeah, the gain limit's way down at 10, so it needs to be like 17 or so. There, and it brings it back up to what it probably should be at. I mean, you can open it full open, but it kind of... I don't like it going beyond 17, so I just kind of cap it at that. And that seems to look pretty good. I'm going to center this camera, although there's a monitor right here on in the picture, so that's why I've got that set up. Anyways, if you I saw you and Pal say so, yeah, that is the overall consensus. Okay, so check this out. I've got 3 cameras running right now. Knudsen Cam is a P200, I have a P100, and then there's a P400 sitting here on my desk, which is right here. This thing is awesome. It looks so good. If the P200 could look better, the P400 is the answer, because it's pretty much the same innards, but with the 4K lens, and I love the detail on this thing. So let's log into this guy, and this update. Wait a minute, I thought I did this update. Did I not? Is that not what the update is for this guy? Yeah, 170. Okay, so not now. So this guy's been updated for the cam control stuff, and this picture is just so awesome. So it's running 29. Wait, why are you running 29? Run 30. Silly. But yeah, I love this picture. I think it looks amazing. And you'll notice that all the AV settings are not listed in the web UI, and that's because we're driving people towards Cam Control 2.0 to do all of those major adjustments. And to get to Cam Control, that opens on my major screen. So we might do that in a bit, but I'm not quite set up yet to do that. So anyways, that is that, and the P400 looks awesome. So yeah. So hey, how's it going, everybody? I see there's a whole heap of people in the actual watching the stream. So how's it going? Did anybody use the QR code that I posted on Facebook? If you did, please say so. I don't know if that's helpful or not. If you're wanting to not watch it on your computer, but you want to pull up the stream on Twitch on your phone, I uploaded a QR code that takes you directly to the Bird Dog John Twitch page, and I don't know if anybody would find that useful or helpful or whatever, but it's there on Facebook if you want to scan it and jump in. So, are you sick of firmware questions? I just clicked the link in your post. Awesome. That's what it's for, right? But it takes you, if you're on the computer or the device, and you click the link, it will obviously take you to this site. But if you don't want to watch it on there and you want to watch it on your cell phone or something like that, you have your computer open, you can just scan the QR code, and then Bob's your uncle. So, cool stuff. It is nice and toasty in my office today. Good golly. So I changed out of my sweater, and now I'm just wearing my Bird Dog swag. Are you sick of firmware questions yet? Okay, so as a support agent, you have to learn to, not let it overwhelm you necessarily. And in a previous life, the amount of tickets that come in when a firmware update happens would have stressed me out. But the truth is that we slog through them just the same. We don't, in terms of the number that come in, we steadily work through them, and we try and answer them in the order that they arrive. We try and just be diligent about making sure things get answered. So it is a lot. There are lots of firmware questions. Thankfully, a lot of them are the same. And so we can do some canned responses after I get 2 or 3 that are the same. For example, I don't have an A number on the bottom of my P200. That question, we probably have about a dozen of those. So after 2 or 3, we create a canned response, and we're able to, hey, here's what the engineers say, or here's what the CEO says to do, and we can just copy and paste, and get through them that way. So it speeds it up. It's not too excessive. Thankfully, there's no anomalies that we have yet for this firmware update. Doesn't seem like there's a feature that's suddenly disabled or something that isn't working correctly, and everybody updated it, and now that feature is not working right. So thankfully, there's none of that. I don't see, but that's what we're here to catch, and to alert the engineers of fires that are burning. So I wouldn't say I'm sick of firmware update questions yet. But it's only day 2, so give me some time. Alrighty. Let's check out some of this stuff. All right, so how are things going? How is the firmware update going? People are... Sherman's about to do his. How is it operating for others? Is it manageable? Does it make sense? I know the P100 has a lot to do. And part of that is just the nature of the baseboard, but also the access to it. So like, P100s are happy. Excellent. Did you do the core? Like you did the core update, and then you did the baseboard, and then you did the firmware? Is that the operation you followed, Sherman? Hey, everybody that's joining, welcome. Thanks for hanging out. Appreciate you. Feel free to hit the follow button if you haven't already. Pandorica, I see you hanging out in there. Welcome. Pandorica's one of my moderators, so she gets special privileges. And Balu, if you're around, say hey. 3 steps on 3 cameras. USB cable, USB drive, web UI. Perfect. That is the process, and that's what I did with my P100. Now, the reason I kind of like to get the firmware updates before they go live, but in this case I didn't get them. So yesterday I spent like an hour going through each of the cameras, not an hour each, but an hour total, going through each of the cameras and making sure they all work. So I did the 200 first, I did the 400 second, then I did the 100 third, and I found out that my USB drive was not liking the baseboard update process. So I have some Micro Center USBs. They're actually like 64 gigs that I pare down to 2 with unallocated space. And then I, do my updates on the P200s and the P400s with these. I have found, though, that the P100 doesn't like this media source for some reason. And so I have an additional one that's actually older that looks like this that I use for the P100. It is a Patriot Memory 128 gig stick that I pare down to 1 gig. And it's an older medium. It's USB 3 apparently. But I bought this, I think I got this like quite a while ago, like probably 2 or 3 years ago. So, and these ones are only 6 months old. So the older ones seem to work and I don't know if these are all USB 3, but this guy, the Patriot memory, works for the keyboard and the P100, and then these Micro Center ones work for the P200 and P400. So I don't know why. Two P200s, no problems, all is well. That is wonderful to hear. Miller, that's good news, man. I like hearing those reports. As you can imagine, a support guy liking to hear that it's all working correctly. That's good. So yeah. So there is some like preference, I guess. I haven't figured out why some cameras like the older memory sticks and some like newer, or maybe they're just different. The engineers said like, yeah, not all USB memory media is made equal, and so there is some of that differentiation. But if you have trouble with the USB stick, try a different brand and just see if that works. Also, be sure that you're following the baseboard format procedure that's listed on our, if you don't know it, it's listed on our knowledge database. So check that out if you don't know how to do it properly. There is an actual specific way of doing it, and so it's there available for you to check that out. Why did this come up? Oh, I know why. Okay, the next little piece of news is that we are changing our support stuff. I announced this last week. We're changing the way we do support here at BirdDog. And the reason is scalability. We need to be able to not go crazy. And so this stream is going, the plans are for it to continue. You could always come here and chat with me about support questions, no problem. I'm really hoping that next year we're going to expand this channel to having more than one BirdDog employee talking on it, and that this will evolve into more of a, like during our time slot, we'll have other employees from wherever they're from. Now the Australians are currently sleeping. It's 3:15 in the morning over there, and so it will likely not be them. However, we might hold special events where we have a Q&A with Dan or with Eamon or somebody over there in Australia that can kind of talk you through ideas. You can talk to them directly, that sort of thing. So we might hold special events that we might do more of that. However, there are a couple of pieces that need to get into place first before we can facilitate something like that. Now, the first is we have to move our support system to something that's a little bit more manageable than what it is right now. So you are used to emailing us at help@bird-dog.tv. That is going away, and we are moving to a web form so that you can submit your information on our website for a request for support. The reason for this is twofold. The first is we need to gather specific data. And right now, when people email us, it just kind of is whatever it is. You get an auto response that comes back and says, please, if you haven't included this information, please include it. That generates more tickets and more responses and more wait time and yada, yada, yada. We want to kind of cut that out, and we want to just require certain information to be submitted before you submit a request for support. The other piece is that we need to get these tickets to the appropriate people on board. BirdDog is slowly but surely expanding our support team, and I am currently the product support expert for the company. That is changing, where we're going to have guys that are more specified, but also are in locations closer to people. So we got a lot of guys over in Europe who are using our products. We've got a lot of products in Russia. We've got a lot of products in Australia. We've got probably a handful of very active users in Asia. And that is growing. And we are about to hit the AV market with the wall plate product and with the SDM product from NEC. And that is going to create and generate a lot of more questions. Well, one of the problems is we want to try and respond in appropriate time zones. And so the first person is going to be hired in Europe, and that person has actually already been hired. And so they are going to start soon, and we're going to do an introduction to them once they're on board and fairly familiar with what's going on. So we have somebody in Europe that's going to come on, and that is really exciting because for those of you over in Europe or around Europe, your response time is not going to be 12 to 16 hours, but now it's hopefully the window is going to be closed a fair bit quicker. So tickets that are open during the European business hours will be addressed, at least will be seen during European business hours. And we really hope that those response times are going to be cut down by the time the new year starts. So when Jan 1 comes, we hope to have that person boots on the ground type of thing, being able to at least respond and let you know we've got a ticket and there's a living, breathing person paying attention. So Phil is excited, Bird Dog Phil, because he is not going to have to answer support tickets in Europe anymore. He is our pre-sales guy, does an amazing job over there, and is seriously one of the nicest guys you're ever going to meet. But he is going to have somebody that is running support in Europe. And so that's really exciting that he is going to have somebody helping him handle the support questions so that he can focus on some of the pre-sale stuff that he's unfortunately had to divide his time with. So we're really excited about that. More about who that person is and their involvement when they actually come on. And then you're going to hear a lot more from them come January. So that's exciting. We're really excited to bring somebody on in Europe. The same is true for Australia. There is talks of bringing somebody on in the product support level in Australia that's specifically for that. Now, you may remember that we did hire somebody named Powell or Pav. You may see him on Facebook, and you may also get responses from him in tickets. But he is not really a product support guy. He is the hardening person that we use for our firmware and product releases. And so that is a full-time job, no doubt. There is... I'm blushing now. You know you're valuable, buddy. Hey, Pandorica. Yay for more help. Yay for more help. We're excited. If you can't tell. So there is talks of bringing somebody on in that same role in Australia to cut down on response times and making sure that tickets are not lost in the shuffle. As it is right now, the scope is everything comes to me, and I work with customers and our Australian team to try and sort them out. This also means that in terms of like product capabilities and pre-sales questions, I have to push those things back to our pre-sales guys, and so that's more time and more latency. It's all going to get better. It's all going to get better, but in order to do that, we've got to change the way we do support. So, unfortunately, the help@bird-dog.tv email is eventually going to go away, probably by the beginning of next year, and we're moving to a web form platform that will allow you to still submit tickets. You'll still get an email from us, and then it will be worked through your email. But new tickets, new support generation will happen on our website and will not just be this email address. I should also mention that the Freshdesk email is also disappearing. So if you email the Freshdesk support directly, that will not generate a ticket that we will see. And so do not save that email. Do not use it anymore. As of right now, just use the help@bird-dog.tv. We're actually migrating to a different system. And so this email will be associated for a month with that new system, and then it will be turned off as well. So you need to know that those changes are happening, and you need to tell all your friends and family that they will no longer get support through those channels. Now, when it all goes live, it will obviously be pushed to social media, so all of those channels will get that. I'm not naive to think that everyone's listening to my Twitch broadcast and this is where that data is exclusively being told. We will push that. That will be publicly released. Everybody will be told. So FYI, that's happening, and happening pretty soon, actually. So Phil's on board. and Pandorica is excited for us. So that's all that I need. So that is some of the news that you need to be aware of, especially in regards to support. This channel is not changing. We're still going to be here twice a week, most weeks, except for this one, and obviously the week of Christmas. We will probably take a break at the end of the year. Plus, I'm going to be doing a lot at the end of the year, so that is the major support announcement for this week. And there's a few other things that we have on the back boiler that you need to be aware of, but that will come probably in the next couple of weeks. So we're not ready to share it yet, but there's more exciting news coming. So hang around with us. I'll leak it here first before we push it anywhere else. Does Cam Control 2 have a full screen view option? Yeah, so you need a second monitor, but if you click on the preview window, it will push it to the second monitor and will show you full screen what the image is. That's also full bandwidth. So you'll be pulling a full bandwidth NDI stream. I believe Cam Control 2 preview uses the proxy, but if you click on it, it will push it full screen, full bandwidth, 120 megs, or if you're using the 4K, it'll be like 230, 250, somewhere in there. I haven't actually clocked the 4K yet, and I really should, and actually I think I could. Oh! I could clock it. Hang on. I have fun little resources that you don't. Let's check this out. Let's refresh this. There we go. I want to rename this one. Single channel receiver count test. Hang tight. Whoa. Running this test maxes out my CPU. Yeah, okay, so this request comes really often where people want the controller to talk to software to show previews of called cameras and stuff. I understand, but the controller right now is a UDP controller, and so it doesn't do two-way conversation. It just sends commands. So the best way to do this, would be to use like a multi-viewer software, that a company might make, and run that, and then have your cameras visible in proxy. Oh, I just finished my... So the best way right now would be to do it with multi-viewer, and then you could just see all your cameras, and when you call one, you can just see what's happening with it. I don't know of a way, the way that the firmware is written right now on the keyboard, I don't think that's possible. Because when you call a camera, it's just retrieving that information from the routing table, and then when you push a command to it, it's just pushing it outward. It's not receiving anything back. So there's no, communication as to the network knowing what is going on with the keyboard or what camera it's calling. It's an independent unit. So that information is not available for, a program to read. It's not that the engineers haven't heard this request, but that would be a very intricate and a tall order for the camera or for the keyboard to try and handle. So, Bug Zeke, what's going on? Good morning. I'm not saying it's not possible, Sherman. I'm just saying that is... I don't even know if that's on the roadmap right now. All right, so data stream. Let's see what we have here for the P4K. What is this? Got another appointment at 12:30 today. 1 hour. Analysis. Where are we here? Okay, I gotta test this again. Give me a second. The Cam Keyboard Companion app. I see the uphill battle. Yeah. Yeah, BitFocus is alright. They're good. They're a good little freebie. And I know somebody has somebody has gone to all the effort to write a BirdDog Visca command, so as things are in the wild, I think more stuff like that will come out. Whether it's BirdDog supported, I don't know. But, you know, I limited resources, right? So our engineers have only a certain amount of time, and if they write a very intricate program like that, you basically have to dedicate someone to making sure that always works correctly with every update and everything going on. So might be a bit of an issue there. So we don't have to push the firmware this week. All the minis for the projector are encode, not decode. All the minis for the projector are on encode, not decode. Why are they encoding if they're at a projector? Dropped an email to help with a question about PTZ controller delay. Is there any difference between the VISCA over IP and the NDI control? Yeah. The NDI control is actually written on top of the VISCA IP control. So VISCA IP is more basic in terms of granular control. NDI is specifically using the NDI protocol, but it's actually the commands are written on top of the VISCA IP protocol. So VISCA IP should work first, obviously, but NDI is a little more responsive, a little faster, so you should have better luck with the NDI control. You wrote something to my help desk, did you? Let's see here, latency test. So my little analysis tool here shows that the average bit rate on a 4K image is actually 170 megabits per second. The image wasn't doing anything, I wasn't moving it around, so that's very interesting. I'll have to check with my team and see if that's what they show. NDI is faster. Well, NDI is faster. I mean, if you're having latency issues with your controller, it is likely, or there's probably something going on with the network where the packets are not getting through the actual physical ports fast enough, and they're backing up. And the NDI and VISCA IP protocols get to the camera, and the camera processes them and completes the action before it moves on to the next packet. It doesn't dump the data. So if you press call preset 1, call preset 2, call preset 3, it's going to go through preset 1, situate, like run all of the commands, all the coloration, so it'll pause for a second, and then it will move to preset 2. So that is how IP works. It doesn't just override. It goes through each complete packet, makes sure that it executes whatever it is that you sent, and then it goes on to the next one. So how fast should the protocol work? Well, the term instantaneous is subjective, but I can use my cameras, and I can use my I got all these cameras plugged in, but I have no extra cables. To give you an example, but there shouldn't be much delay. It's a closed network. Yeah, what does that mean? That's also a subjective phrase. You have a DHCP on that network. You have layer 2 switching. You know, like, it's a closed network, but is it an NDI high performance network? That's really the question. Static IPs, for example, is not a closed network setup. It's not an NDI high performance network, so to be careful with that. So how fast should it be? BirdDog PTZ controller 200, closed network on an island. So does it have DHCP? Are the IPs being issued through the DHCP server, or have you set them all up as static? If you are using static, why are you not using the DHCP reservation list instead? Yeah, static. Okay, so with static and the keyboard does not operate on a non-routed network. So I'm going to make some assumptions here because I get this all the time. Layer 2 switch, you have to have one at this point. People get really frustrated because they spent $50 on a 5-port Netgear, and I tell them that's not good enough. The truth is, it's not good enough. I mean, for high performance video, it's not just a matter of the cameras plugging into a switch. Define layer 2, a managed layer 2 switch. You don't have to have layer 3 multicast abilities. That's what I mean. Layer 2 is probably fine, but a managed switch is required. Because managed switching usually allows for routing tables like internal routing tables. It usually has some sort of internal processing, has packet buffers, has the ability to turn off QoS, turn off jumble frames. Unmanaged switches are, I mean, it's not the term, but it's layer 1. So a Ubiquiti US 8 port 150. Okay, those will work. A word of caution about Ubiquiti is NDI tends to burn up Ubiquiti switches. These are not test results that I've experienced necessarily, but I have on good authority someone who uses the NDI protocol exclusively. Matter of fact, he does it for a living, and he can get a Ubiquiti switch and hook up his NDI devices, HX I believe, and burn them out within 6 months. So if you're really running them hard and running them hot, you know, you might have an issue. If you're powering them up once a week for a 1 hour stream, it'd probably be fine. But yeah, the Ubiquiti switch just CPU on UniFi. I mean, like an actual process, like the ability to process data. Yeah. So there's usually onboard memory. There's onboard, like it's not actually RAM, but it's any brand you recommend. No, I'm not allowed to make recommendations wearing this shirt. I have Ubiquiti switches, like for a test bench scenario, and I use them because they're low mid-grade. You know, I wouldn't call them enterprise. I'd say Soho switching. But we sell bunches of bird dogs, so it would be nice to have a go-to switch. Yeah, it would be nice, wouldn't it? Tell me about it. I don't have recommendations. I can't tell you use this switch, because what's going to happen is the switch is going to fail and you're going to send me an email. And so BirdDog will not recommend a switch, and neither will NewTek, and neither will Panasonic, and neither will Sony. They won't do it. However, there are switching companies that claim to be NDI compatible. Netgear. There's an AV switch. I have not tested it. I do not know, but it is the M4250. Nope. It is the M4125, 4250. That in the description of this switch, it says that it works with NDI. I could even physically show you. Now, this is not a recommendation. I cannot recommend this switch because I have never used this switch. I don't know much about this switch, but this switch says NDI and Dante right in the description. So if you're going to hold somebody to the fire, do it to Netgear, because Netgear said they can. And it does not say NDI HX. It says NDI, which means that they are claiming both protocols. So, good on you, Netgear. Good luck. But seriously, I can't recommend anything because there's nothing that is... BirdDog has not sanctioned... Use this switch to never have a problem. And then what's going to happen is if you do that, then users are going to say, okay, how do you configure it? Okay, and how many sources can I use? And does it work in this scenario where I'm running NDI 24/7? Or does it work in this scenario where I have a church that's running 12 full NDI streams and whatever? I had a conversation with a guy yesterday who were installing BirdDog stuff, but were frustrated because they were getting inconsistent results. Well, come to find out that they were using unmanaged Netgear 8-port switches, and it was like, I understand the frustration, and I understand that installers just want to be able to quote a package. You want 3 cameras, I need these 2 switches, and I need this router, and we're off to the races, and it needs to be this configuration. Unfortunately, no NDI company is going to come out and say, always do this, do this, do this, do this, because if that configuration doesn't work, they're on the hook to support it, and they're not going to do that because that will open them up to supporting everybody's network, and they don't want that sort of workload, and they can't afford it. Now, the only way around it, actually, that I think could possibly do it is we would recommend, this is not BirdDog, this is an NDI company in general, we would recommend a switch if you had a paid SLA, but I don't see a big market for that, so I doubt people would do that. But that switch says NDI in the description. The M4250. If it doesn't work, talk to Netgear. I don't know. But I asked my team, hey, this is interesting. Maybe we should look into this. So maybe. Wait a minute. Is that an X32 sitting there? That is an X32. That's funny. Anyway, this is their AV line of switches. Have at it. Go for it. Thanks for joining me, everybody. Really appreciate you hanging out today. We're just chatting about networks and firmware and all that sort of good stuff. So, and support. Support's changing at BirdDog, so I'll go over that once again. I did run our little coloration video that BirdDog produced at the beginning of the show. I'll do that at the end as an outro. That was pretty cool. I enjoyed doing that. We're excited about this update, so let me know. Another question from customer. BirdDog PTZ controller. That is not a question. That's a statement. And that's actually just a product. What's the question? I know that's not your question. What's your question? I would be happy to talk you through it. And let me look at your ticket here real quick while we're... Since you said you sent one in. Ticket number 4349. Ticket number 4349 right here. When pushing the preset button, it doesn't respond at least for 5 seconds. Okay, so this is on your static network. You need a network that's managing the data, is what's going on here. I can say that I have good experience with UniFi overall. Awesome. So do I. I don't have a lot of failures. I actually really like the fact that you can go in and see the devices joining the network, but I have mine governed by a UniFi Pro gateway. So, okay, so in regards to this PTZ question that you have, again, the static networks is not the way you design an NDI network. All right, you need to have a DHCP on there, and so probably if you're using UniFi, you need to get a gateway. And if you're using and the gateway will govern the DHCP server and will issue IP addresses. Inside UniFi, there's an option to also set fixed IP addresses from the DHCP side, which would give you your static IPs, but allow the units to broadcast in DHCP mode. The static settings are not like full manual, okay? The static settings assume that you are going in to the routing tables and inputting this information manually, which it doesn't sound like you are. It sounds like you're plugging in a 8-port UniFi switch, plugging in the devices, powering them over PoE, and letting them govern themselves. That is not a good idea, and you should always use... Yeah, I mean, if you're doing small installs with like 3 or 4 cameras and a keyboard, absolutely. Do not require the little Linux boards that are inside these devices to navigate networks that don't have routing tables. You should really set up a proper network, and really when you're setting it up, keep thinking high performance, because that's what NDI is. It's 120 megabits a second. So like, let's just do some simple math here, okay? So 60 seconds in a minute, you're sending 7,200 megabits a minute, okay? And let's just times that by 60 minutes. We're sending 432,000 megabits an hour. All right, for 1 hour of NDI, you're sending a crap ton per source across your network. So you really can't leave that up to the network just being bare bones. And unmanaged switches, or switches that are not governed by a proper routing service, are basically just throwing that information into the abyss and letting whoever's watching try and control it. So when you recall your camera on the controller, it's basically saying, okay, I think there's an IP out there, and it sometimes will ping the camera, and if the camera is, there's an algorithm involved here that it randomly broadcasts its broadcast information. So if it's doing that, when the camera requests to connect to that camera, it will see it. Otherwise, it won't. So if you have a DHCP server, routing services on the switch, which that 8-port 150 will do it if you manage the switch. But if you have these things enabled and the network is actually managing itself and you're letting the NDI devices just broadcast and do their specific jobs and not navigate these blank networks, things work a lot faster because all that information is being utilized correctly. So I would always set up a proper router. With UniFi, they're called gateways. You'd set up a gateway, set up a DHCP server, utilize the fixed IP if you have to, if you need to know what the IP address, if you don't want them changing on the keyboard, for example, utilize the fixed IP function, and then turn off network optimization with UniFi, turn off QoS, turn off jumbo frames, follow the NDI guidelines, and set them up, that way, and allow the network to govern the network and allow the units to govern themselves in terms of broadcasting their information over DHCP. You're going to find it being a lot more consistent long term. Now, if you look at the guidelines, I had somebody tell me this the other day, which I thought was hilarious. But the guidelines say it's recommended that you use a DHCP service. And the guy that I was talking to about this said, I said, do you have a DHCP service? He said, well, it says it's recommended, but it's not required. And I was like, yeah, it's recommended, but it's recommended like I recommend you not drink and drive. That's the sort of recommendation they're saying. They're not saying don't use it if you don't feel like it. They're saying you should use a DHCP. It's recommended. NDI recommends that you use a DHCP server. It's recommended, okay? Just the same way that we recommend you not drink and drive, okay? It's recommend you do that. So always think in that term is like static networks. Let's throw that out. We don't. When we talk about high performance video, that's not even really a part of the conversation. It should be, you should be running this on, this should be in the manual. Yeah, well, this goes down to, we don't tell people how to configure their networks. We assume that if you're paying the type of money you're paying for a high-powered NDI, full NDI device, that your NDI network is set up to handle that. And so the problem is, and what I deal with on a daily basis, people that have purchased NDI products from BirdDog, but they don't have the infrastructure in place, mainly because it doesn't say that you have to have it. But if you look into like guys who install NDI, type of NDI networks, the NDI guidelines really do outline what it is that needs to be in place. DHCP server, layer 2 switching. Nothing in the guidelines says anything about unmanaged switches, so get rid of those if you have those. And, proper routing. It does say turn off jumbo frames. It does say turn off QoS. On UniFi, it's called network optimization. Set it up so that, turn off power conservation. So Cisco, I'm looking at you. HP, I'm looking at you. Those companies always default to the EEE standard or power conservation, which is a big no-no with cameras because the P400, the P200, the P100 all sit idle at 14.9 watts. But when you move them, they jump to 18 watts. And so if you have power conservation, the switch thinks this is a PoE unit and delegates just 14.9 watts to that unit. But when you go to move it, the unit will reboot because there's not enough power, and people will wonder, I think I have a faulty unit, I want to RMA this thing, and they don't realize, no, it's their $3,500 Cisco switch that's being smarter than it needs to be, and is just delegating only PoE power to that source. So, power Conservation, turn that off. This is high performance. We're talking about high performance video networks. Turn off anything that's conservation off. Switches should not be in any sort of conservation mode. So I had that problem 2 weeks ago. Cisco PoE plus switch, yeah. And I think that there's a line of code that you can say don't delegate power, like don't regulate it at all. Just leave it full on, full open. But I know there's one for HP. But the Cisco ones, I haven't found the actual code, the actual command. Quite frankly, because I don't use Cisco, so that's not something I've had to come across. But also the Cisco 2960 series, is that right? Cisco 2960. Excuse me. So yes, the Cisco 2960 series. It's a Catalyst series used in a lot of federal buildings here in the U.S. and schools. Throw those away. Those are not NDI approved, and they should be banned in the NDI world. They're also end of life, so they're not even supported by Cisco anymore. Get rid of those. Don't try and do NDI over 2960 series. We even had a Cisco product manager. Wow. Yeah. Cisco is great, but it's not... It's used for high data and video data. AV data in general is not the same as like corporate data. Okay, so when you're dealing with like servers and files and that sort of stuff, that's much different than NDI. NDI is fire hose on or fire hose off. That's and you don't want it to be. You don't want the switch to be learning the nature of the packets to try and better manage them. You just want it full on, full open. That's what you want, and Cisco doesn't know how to not do it. Doesn't know how to not be smart. And so it really screws with the NDI streams. That's funny. All right. So, hey, everybody, I did not mean to... If you walked in on that rant, really sorry. Hope I didn't scare you. I'm usually not that passionate about network settings, but I need to... I find that the NDI community does this thing where it's like, NDI is plug and play. And I really feel like that does you a disservice as a client for somebody not to say, hey, it is plug and play as long as your NDI network is set up correctly. So, yeah, rant. So, we can show this. Why didn't it show this? Oh, bummer. Sorry. My chat bot. Anyway, thanks. It doesn't do you a very good service if somebody isn't just straight out honest with you and says, it is plug and play. Yes, absolutely. As long as your high performance NDI network is set up according to new tech guidelines. But a lot of people come to us and they plug in their device and they change it to static, and then the device disappears or whatever, and they think they know how. It's all right, don't worry about it. But they think they have a great understanding of how to set a static IP on a computer or on a wireless camera or something like that. But when it comes to how NDI works and how it operates, there really is a good way to do it, and there's an okay way to get by, and then there's a better way to do it. And the best way to do it, I think, this is my subjective opinion, by the way, is use a proper router, get a DHCP server running on it. This can be a unified gateway, this can be an ASUS router, this can be something. And when you're buying products and looking at products and buying network gear, think high performance video. Don't think data, think high performance video, because that's what you're really doing. So drifting off to a different IP range, it's a struggle locate. Yeah, so you can use NDI analysis for that if you have something that's drifting, but I really strongly recommend DHCP reservation lists. On most routers, that's what it's called, or in UniFi for your case. It'll be called fixed IP. You click on the device and then click on network, and then it'll say fixed IP, and you can set it to whatever it is or to one specific, and then reboot the device. The device is in DHCP mode for this. Okay, so you leave the device in DHCP, and then you set it on the router itself or on the DHCP reservation list, reboot the device, and it should pull that number because it'll be issued that IP address from the DHCP. So that'll make your life a lot easier. And then you scan with your keyboard, which is also in DHCP, scan with your keyboard. It will find those IPs, and then you can add them and giddy up with that. Yeah, the bird, okay, so you can, that's a good point, Sherman. You can use the bird dog dash last 5 of the mac.local, and that will take you to the device. You can also use Bonjour Browser, which is a defunct program that looks for Bonjour signals on your network, or you can use NDI analysis and yes, use DHCP with fixed IP. See, Sherman knows what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about, everybody. Come on, it's good stuff. IP scanner, advanced IP scanner works pretty well for you PC users. Yeah, PC is advanced IP scanner. LANScan is a good Mac program that I found works pretty well. It's like a little green duck. So the Studio Monitor, if it's on the same subnet, it should find it. But NDI analysis is a great program because if it's generating NDI, it will see it, and then you can navigate to the IP address and use the IP in Chrome and get into it that way. Okay, that was a lot of data, and we are 3 minutes out from being done, so that's pretty fun. Okay, cool. I need a nap after that rant. That took a lot out of me. 1 hour is not long enough, apparently, to talk about all of the network stuff, but I was unable to locate anywhere. It's going back to the distributor. So many settings. It's true. I'm a little bit nervous about that. A little bit nervous about the napper coffee. Well, the coffee's gone. I've got a meeting at 12:30, so more coffee, I think. I think there's a half a pot downstairs, so go and get a warm-up. But anyways, yeah, so there are a lot of settings, Sherman, and I am a little bit nervous about that being overwhelming for everybody, especially because there's not a... Well, anyway, I'll save that for when it actually becomes a problem. Hopefully it won't. Not able to locate anywhere. So, did you use NDI analysis? Did you use Bird Dog Neuralizer? Yeah, I talk network probably like 6 tickets a day. People wondering how to do it. We really just need to come out with a big, like, stop using static announcement, because I seriously think people are just in over their heads, and they need to simplify it by just setting up a simple DHCP and letting the network handle it, and letting the routing tables on the layer 2 switches handle the routing. Your keyboard is going to love it because it can just query the routing table, and the switch will send back, here's the info, you know. So tried Neuralizer, tried IP scanners. Neuralizer is very specific. Did you watch the video I made on that? Just clip the rant you had and share it. Okay, so I've actually made like 6 videos of me explaining network stuff and why you need to get rid of the static IP. I've put it on YouTube. I've like got it all ready, and I'm not confident that I should release it because it's just going to create a lot more problems. But anyways, people get very offended when you tell them that their network isn't sufficient. It's like a personal jab at them or something, you know? So I just have to bite the bullet and be like, you know, it is what it is. But anyway. Do it. Here's the other issue, right? Is the company does not want to say their products aren't plug and play, but we really need to gently somehow say, gentler than what I just did for you, that they are plug and play. Just need to make sure that you understand what network they're expecting. Don't just plug them in to your 5-port Netgear unmanaged switch and expect them to deliver high-performance 1-frame latency video, because that doesn't happen. And then the inevitable question is, well, what switch should I use? And then we're like, we don't know. Doesn't help you out, and it doesn't look very good for us, so we're working on that. I really want to get my hands on this Netgear switch that says it supports NDI, because giddy up if that's the case. Then it's like, if people are like, how do I set up my NDI network? Be like, talk to Netgear. Plug and play. You just need to be a network sysadmin. Not a sysadmin. You just need to... The NDI network just needs to have a network. Like, it just needs to be an actual network and not just like the shell of a network. Like right? So not just a switch. You need more than that. It needs to be a real network. And if you were to go to an IT guy and say, you know, what are the basics that make up a computer network? He would start with, well, you're going to have hardware, and then you're going to have the software portion. So you're going to have routing, and you're going to have a few other, and hopefully he's not too full of himself and he really gets all detailed. But in general, you're going to need switches, router, DHCP server, routing tables, you know, a few things to get the network actually talking correctly. And it's different. NDI is different than just computer data, which is where most of the help is coming from, right? So people go to Google and type in, how do I set up my network? Well, that's not good, because you also have to understand how high-performance video AV networks work. And so there's a little more to it. And so my suggestion, to be as general as I possibly can, is get a router that does DHCP and that will allow you to fix IPs. And then get layer 2 switches. The two that you listed from Ubiquiti are layer 2 switches. And have them talking to the router. You know, let the DHCP issue IP addresses for each of the switches and for each of the devices, and set it up that way, and you'll be in good shape. So I do that all the time with my UniFi stuff, and it seems to work well. Can't say it's the only way to do it, but it seems to work well. All right, folks. I'm done yelling at you about that for another day. We will not be here on Thursday. Happy Thanksgiving to my U.S. clients and friends. Enjoy your Turkey Day, and we will see you guys next week on Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time here in the U.S. Same time as this show. More announcements coming in terms of, well, at least the support stuff, the stuff I can share. But we're really looking forward to... oh, nice. PTZ Optics has some good NDI units. Just remember that's NDI HX. So they're probably just fine in terms... I'll need to watch those, Sherman. But yeah, maybe we could recommend checking out their configuration setup. Happy pre-Thanksgiving technical rant day, John. You too, Pandorica. Enjoy yourself down there in Texas. We will be in touch. Wrong channel. Nah, that's okay. He can say that. I won't recommend PTZ Optics cameras, but because they're panties, but Panasonics. But I prefer my Sony lenses personally. Just looks a little bit more like what I prefer to see with video. Anyway, none of that. We don't need to go down that channel. It is past time, and I don't have that sort of amount of time to talk about those differences. But hey, thank you for hanging out. Thanks for chatting today and carrying this on. I really appreciate that. They show the web UI settings that help you get going. There's also a guy that did one. It's in the BirdDog user group. He did like an outline on how to set up your UniFi network for NDI. So that's unofficial. I don't recommend it, but at least I know it's there. So OBS support, like PTZ Optics, suggests that the video, not the gear. There you go. And we just need to make our own videos, and then we don't have to do anything like that. Please come hang out with us next week on Tuesday at 11 to 12. We would love to chat with you. Bring your questions, bring your opinions, and we promise to be as helpful as we possibly can. I appreciate you guys. I'm going to run the outro, and we will see you next week. Take care. Peace out.